Hello everyone, and welcome to your favourite time of the week. It's what to do with Sprue. So this is part 6 on a small series of videos I've been doing about Sprue. So with the lockdown and the virus that we will not mention, we're all at home and we've got loads of products that I'm sure we've all finished because, you know, we don't store loads and loads and loads and loads of hobby things. And we always get things done before buying the next product. That's correct. But you may find you have lots of Sprue, and rather than chucking them away, I find you can do some weird and wonderful things with Sprue. That sounds dodgy. But today I am making sci-fi ladders. Now I have made ladders in the past with bamboo skewers wrapped around with fuse wire. I have made ladders with Costa stir sticks. But for more of a sci-fi feel, I like to use Sprue. So, as you can see straight away, we have a weird shape of Sprue there that looks quite ladder-like, I would guess. So, straight away, I'm going to go in to cutting out the main shape of that. So remember, using a nice cutting mat and cutting away from your fingers with a nice sharp knife. So, I'll try not to lose any fingers on camera. But you know, accidents happen. Gently. So I've cut a bit there. I'm going to cut out a bit here. And a bit here, just to get the basic shape. And then reassess. Put that to one side, don't chuck it away. Yeah, it's pretty useful. I never chuck anything away. So, I want to make a sci-fi ladder. That's the basic shape. Do I want to keep these bits? Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that for a minute. So I'm going to trim off all these little knobbly bits and tidy it up. So watch the bits go flying, people. And your partners. Okay, so once you're happy with your basic shape and you've cut all the little knobbly bits off, what I've done on this one is left a couple of little knobblies on the side because I thought they're fairly even. So I don't know if you can see that. Obviously I've trimmed the sides because I wanted to keep it away from the wall, just slightly. That's the basic shape, and as you can tell I've cut these side bits off. Now if you wanted to, you could always trim the spikes off or leave them on if you wanted to make it look a bit chaosy for like 40k, and stick them on this way. So then you can hook them over the top of the piece of scenery. Keep it modular if you want, or even glue it like that. The piece of scenery I actually had in mind doesn't have a wall section to hook over. I want it to be on the side of this large building here, because this is for Outlands, our own game. There's somewhere you can climb that side of the building. I wanted somewhere you can climb that side, and I wanted it to look like it was on there before the building got destroyed. So I want to stick it on like so. So I actually have this in mind for a particular piece of scenery. But if you wanted to, if you had like a wall section, you wanted to hook it over, that looked fantastic. So you can see them on top of rooftops, especially in American high-rise buildings for the fire escapes. You could use it like that. And once you've got, like I said, the basic shape and you want to file it, I've used some small hobby files and a very smooth bit of wet and dry sandpaper. Smooth it down. So I don't want to make it look too perfect, because this is going to be like a fire escape on a roof, and the building has been blown up. So if it was a bit perfect, it would look a bit weird. So that's the basic shape of the building, of the ladder even. So I'm going to do away with these little bits, so I won't be needing them. But what I am going to need, and what ladders kind of require, is a set of rungs. So that's the kind of thickness of run I want all the way along. So I will find a nice straight piece of Sprue. So there we go, I've got the same kind of thickness as what I would imagine that's the bottom run. So that's what I want. So I'm going to tidy all these pieces up once again, removing any of these little knobbly bits. Like so. You know how to remove knobbly bits, so you don't need me to film this for the next 10 minutes as I tidy it up, but that's basically what you do. And once you're happy with it, you're going to measure, mark and start cutting. So it's up to you, whatever scale miniatures you're using, where you think the gap would be. So I'm thinking that kind of pacing, because I have plenty of sprue to use, it's not a problem. So too big and then the person wouldn't be able to get on to the next rail. Not that you could probably fit a model in there anyway, and not that these people are actually real, sorry to say. Now you may notice that most sprue is slightly angled. So if you see what I mean, on the cross section, it's not truly square. So if you keep your ladder chassis, this particular piece, like regular sprue, so wedged, then the best thing to do is when you cut these, cut them at the same angle the sprue is manufactured at. So that angle on that sprue. So we need to cut this piece, that end at least, that angle. So this piece is wedged this way, so I will have to cut this that way. Now, that's only if you want to make a perfect joint. So what I've done there is angled it, it's nice. And of course I'm going to use some plastic glue. So obviously this is from Citadel, but this really bonds and melts to it. So you still have to cut it fairly neat. So you can see those little knobbles, I'm going to line that up. Like so. Just double checking. So a bit of plastic glue. There's not much of a gap there, so it should melt. Tiny little gap there maybe. So it should melt. So I will zoom in and I will show you what I mean. Sorry for the weird accent, I don't know what that was, but that's basically it. So obviously going to make several more pieces like so. One I've already prepared earlier. So that is my plan. So just a tiny spot of plastic glue there, tiny spot of plastic glue there, and then we'll get this fella and wedge it down there, so make sure it's the right way around. I'm leaning it on the tile because I want it to be nice and flat, because remember this is the inside edge, the bits with the knobbles, the bit is going to go against the wall, whereas the other side is the bit you want level really, because that's where they're going to walk. So maybe a bit straighter than that. Can even use the squares of this cutting mat to actually help me. So that should be level, that should be about level. It's slightly off. So that's basically your main ladder. So I've used this particular shape, but you can use loads of different shapes if you like. A bit more sci-fi, a bit more crazy, the better I say. But if you want to use it for something like 40k, you'll notice that there's like rivets on the front or rivets on the side. You can do that if you want to, but in lockdown, these videos basically are what you've got at home. Mainly sprue, you might be running low on glue, things like that, so you might not have the materials to do the rivets. But if you wanted to, and you do have beads at home, what I mean by beads are thousands of these tiny little guys. I like to use them as rivets. So rather than cutting the heads off pins, things like that in the past, or using tiny bits of green stuff, I mean you can buy rivets, fair enough, but these are just as good. So what I recommend is, you can put either a rivet on the front there, or on the side, drill a small hole with this, add a tiny little dot of glue, and add some of these rivets before painting it up, because the paint will obviously seal it in there as well. But for this particular video, we're going streamline. This is a lockdown video, so all you've got at home is sprue and glue and a knife. Why not? So I'm going to seal it with this, but you don't have to use a rattle can at all. Because remember, this is still a model, technically. It's the same plastic, your lovely models come in, so it's really easy to paint. But I'll seal it with a wrap. So as you can tell with the compressor just kicking off there, I'm going to use the airbrush. So I like a little bit of this stuff. It says rust, but it's more of a bronze because it's a metallic. I quite like it. So what I could do is just paint it up grey or silver, maybe even make it a bit rusty as well. Yeah, a bit of brown on there, a bit of orange, dry brush it, stipple it maybe. But instead I'm going to put this on there and make it a bit more eye-catching, because there's a lot of rust on that piece of terrain anyway. So I don't want too much rust, and this ladder won't stand out. I still want it a bit weathered, a bit beaten, but what I'm going to do is use this, dull it down a little bit, and then use some oxidization. So if it's bronze, remember it doesn't actually rust, so instead I'm going to use like a turquoisey colour on it. But basically paint that whatever you want. Now you've done all the hard work. A couple of light layers down. So I like to add a little bit of typhus corrosion on there as well, and water it down and thin it out a little bit. Gives it a bit of texture, definitely makes it look dated, old and busted. Next thing is I'm using this. So I imagine it bronzy, brassy, but you can make it steel based if you like. And just going to wash this in there. And this stuff's great because you can drag off the top and leave the recesses like so, or you can even sponge it on, or you can wash the whole thing. So I'm going to do different variants of, so rubbing it on and then rubbing it off just the topmost. Just like so. And that's how I'm going to do this piece. But remember, you can paint it any way you want. So put it on really roughly, dragging off the excess. And that's it, a little bit more of that side, missing a bit. So this building has been blown up and it's been left for quite some time. But you know, if you're making a fire exit, you could always paint it red to make it bright colours, you know, stay clear signs, things like that. But I'm making it dirty, worn and abandoned. So that is my final piece. But like I said, you can add ivy to it, you could add moss to it if it's been abandoned for a while. You could add those little beads to it to make rivets. But that is my finished piece. I'll pan out a little bit. And I'm going to stick it to the side of my building.